Canada is more than maple syrup and frozen landscapes. It's an energy superpower. Its vast and varied resources fuel economies, heat homes, and drive industry across North America and beyond. But this wealth comes with a heavy environmental price. Understanding Canada means understanding its energy story, a tale of power, politics, and planetary consequence. Canada ranks among the top 5 energy producers globally, with massive oil sands, abundant natural gas, coal, hydroelectricity, and uranium. Recently, wind and solar have joined the mix, giving Canada a unique, flexible energy portfolio. This diversity makes Canada a critical player in a volatile global market. For the US, Canada is its largest and most secure energy supplier, connected by a vast web of pipelines and transmission lines. As Asian economies demand more energy, Canada is pivoting east, reshaping trade routes and challenging its traditional US alliance. Yet this abundance is shadowed by the climate crisis. Fossil fuel extraction and use are major drivers of global warming, and Canada faces a difficult paradox: prosperity tied to industries that harm the environment. The nation stands at a crossroads, balancing economic growth with the urgent need for a lower carbon future. This transition demands complex policy, innovation, and a rethinking of Canada's global role. The stakes are high and the path forward is uncertain. The choices made now will define Canada's identity and future. The scale of its energy reserves is hard to grasp, but their impact is felt worldwide. Canada's energy story is one of abundance, conflict, and transformation. The world is watching as Canada navigates this pivotal moment. Can it remain an energy superpower while becoming a climate leader? The answer will shape not just Canada but the planet. The journey begins here. The Athabasca oil sands in Alberta are among the world's largest industrial projects. Extracting bitumen, a tar-like substance, requires immense energy and water, leaving behind toxic tailings ponds and scarred landscapes. For deeper deposits, steam-assisted gravity drainage, SAGD, is used, injecting steam underground to liquefy bitumen, but this method also emits significant greenhouse gases. Canada holds the third-largest proven oil reserves globally, with most locked in these sands. Oil sands production now accounts for over 2/3 of Canada's crude output, making it the 4th largest oil producer worldwide. The economic impact is huge, supporting jobs and generating billions in revenue. But the environmental costs are profound: high emissions, water pollution, and destruction of boreal forests. The oil sands are a major obstacle to meeting Canada's climate targets. Indigenous communities and ecosystems downstream face ongoing risks. The debate over oil sands is a debate about Canada's future, short-term gain versus long-term sustainability. The industry's growth has fueled national prosperity, but at a steep environmental price. As global demand shifts, the pressure to change intensifies. Canada must decide: double down on oil, or lead the transition to cleaner energy. The world is watching this central conflict in Canada's energy story. The outcome will define the nation for decades to come. Beyond the oil sands, Canada's conventional oil sector remains vital. The Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin has long been the heart of this industry, now revitalized by horizontal drilling and fracking. Tight oil from formations like the Bakken and Montney has extended the sector's life, though production is now surpassed by oil sands output. Fracking brings its own environmental concerns: water use, potential groundwater contamination, and methane leaks. Conventional oil, including offshore projects like Hibernia, still makes up about 1/3 of Canada's crude output. Offshore drilling adds diversity, but comes with risks of marine spills. While less carbon-intensive than oil sands, conventional oil still carries a significant environmental burden. The sector's future depends on balancing economic benefits with environmental responsibility. Canada's oil story is complex, with each method presenting its own challenges and choices. Natural gas is Canada's silent energy giant, produced mainly through fracking in massive shale formations like Montney and Duvernay. Canada ranks among the world's top natural gas producers, exporting most of its output to the US via an integrated pipeline network. This cross-border system underpins North American industry, heating and power generation. Natural gas burns cleaner than coal, but methane leaks can erase its climate advantage. The industry's future hinges on liquefied natural gas, LNG exports to Asia, requiring new terminals on the BC coast. Projects like LNG Canada promise economic growth but risk locking in fossil fuel infrastructure for decades. Environmental concerns and Indigenous opposition complicate expansion. The gas sector faces a crossroads: expand exports or accelerate the shift to cleaner alternatives. Canada's natural gas story is one of opportunity and risk. The choices made now will shape the nation's energy landscape. As global markets evolve, Canada must weigh economic gains against climate commitments. The future of natural gas is uncertain, but its impact is undeniable. The world is watching Canada's next move. Coal once powered Canada's industry and railways, but its era is ending. Thermal coal for electricity is being phased out, with provinces like Ontario and Alberta shutting down plants ahead of schedule. Metallurgical coal used for steelmaking remains a key export, especially to Asia. Mining practices, especially mountaintop removal, have severe environmental impacts. Coal's legacy is pollution and ecosystem damage, making its future increasingly controversial. As Canada decarbonizes, coal's role shrinks, but debates over its export and environmental cost continue. Hydroelectricity is the backbone of Canada's electricity system, providing nearly 60% of the nation's power. Provinces like Quebec, BC, Manitoba, and Newfoundland have built massive hydro projects, turning rivers into economic engines. Projects like Quebec's James Bay and BC's Bennett Dam are among the world's largest. While hydro is clean and reliable, building dams floods vast lands, disrupts ecosystems, and impacts indigenous communities. These projects have sparked ongoing conflicts over land rights and environmental impacts. Despite challenges, hydro remains central to Canada's clean energy future, balancing intermittent renewables like wind and solar. Provinces with hydro surpluses export power to the U.S., generating revenue and supporting decarbonization. The existing hydro system is a strategic asset for a net-zero grid. As demand for clean power grows, hydro's role will only increase. Canada's rivers continue to shape its energy destiny. Nuclear power is a quiet cornerstone of Canada's low-carbon energy mix, concentrated in Ontario. The CANDU reactor, a Canadian innovation, uses natural uranium and heavy water and has been exported worldwide. Ontario's nuclear plants provide about 60% of the province's electricity, enabling the phase-out of coal. The industry is investing billions to refurbish reactors for decades of future use. The main challenge is managing radioactive waste, with plans underway for a deep geological repository. Small modular reactors, SMRs, offer potential for remote and industrial sites. Nuclear's future is debated, balancing reliable, carbon-free power against costs, safety, and waste. Its role in Canada's net-zero journey remains crucial and contested. Canada's wind and solar sectors are booming, driven by falling costs and climate policies. Wind power leads, with turbines across the prairies, Atlantic coasts, and Great Lakes. Solar is the fastest-growing source, especially in sunny provinces like Alberta and Ontario. These renewables decentralize power and empower communities. Their main challenge is intermittency, requiring smarter grids and energy storage. Hydroelectric reservoirs help balance supply when wind and sun falter. Wind and solar are now Canada's cheapest new power sources, accelerating the shift to a net-zero grid. Their growth marks a fundamental transformation in Canada's energy landscape. Canada's energy wealth relies on a vast network of pipelines, railways, and transmission lines. The U.S. is Canada's main energy customer, but this dependence is both a strength and a vulnerability. Pipeline constraints can trap Canadian oil, driving prices down and fueling calls for market diversification. Projects like the Trans Mountain expansion and LNG terminals aim to reach Asian markets. These projects face fierce opposition from environmentalists and many Indigenous communities. The debate over new infrastructure is one of Canada's most divisive issues. Economic interests clash with environmental protection and Indigenous rights. The outcome will shape Canada's global energy role. The nation stands at a crossroads, with its future in the balance. Canada's energy future is a balancing act between economic power and climate responsibility. Carbon pricing and clean fuel standards aim to cut emissions, while new pipelines and projects spark controversy. Indigenous rights are central, with communities demanding consultation and, increasingly, partnership in energy projects. Regional divides fuel political tension, making consensus elusive. Every decision is scrutinized and contested, reflecting a nation in transition. The struggle to reconcile prosperity, climate action, and Indigenous rights defines Canadian politics. The path forward is complex but essential for the country's future. Canada stands at a turning point, committed to net-zero emissions by 2050. Its clean hydro, growing renewables, and nuclear expertise are powerful assets. But the oil and gas sector's size creates economic and political inertia. Divisions over pipelines, Indigenous rights, and regional interests complicate the transition. Success will require massive investment, innovation, and political will. The choices made now will define Canada's legacy, balancing prosperity with stewardship and national ambition with global responsibility. The world is watching as Canada charts its energy future. Can it transform its natural wealth into sustainable power? The challenge is daunting, but the stakes could not be higher. The next chapter in Canada's energy story begins today.